Rangers appear to be closing in on another important defensive addition, with a deal now reportedly agreed with Premier League side Aston Villa for Costa Nedeljkovic. Let's break this down. There is so much to discuss in today's video, so be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for daily Rangers content. The Serbian right-back has been on Derek McInnes's radar as Rangers look to strengthen their options on the right side of defence, and negotiations have now progressed significantly in recent days. The latest development is that Nedeljkovic is set to move to Glasgow on loan, with Rangers also agreeing an obligation to make the transfer permanent for a fee of around £4 million at the end of the season. That would make this a particularly interesting deal for Rangers, because the club aren't simply bringing in a player for the short term. They appear to have already secured a pathway towards making Nedeljkovic a permanent Rangers player. Nedeljkovic joined Aston Villa for around £8 million 2 years ago, but his time in the Midlands hasn't gone entirely to plan. The 20-year-old has struggled to establish himself in Unai Emery's squad and has spent the last 18 months gaining experience on loan in the Bundesliga with RB Leipzig. Now he looks set for a completely different challenge at Ibrox. Rangers will be hoping Nedeljkovic can take control of the right-back position and establish himself ahead of Dujon Sterling and summer signing Ross McCrory. And if he can rediscover the form that convinced Villa to spend £8 million on him in the first place, Rangers could potentially have a very exciting player on their hands. But this isn't expected to be the final piece of business from McInnes. After bringing in James Penrice from AEK Athens, the club's 10th signing of the summer, Rangers have now shifted their focus towards adding more quality in the final third. McInnes himself has admitted that attacking additions are now the priority, explaining that the club are working extremely hard behind the scenes to get those deals over the line. So, while Costa Nedeljkovic could be the latest player heading through the doors at Ibrox, it certainly doesn't sound like Rangers are finished yet. A deal with Aston Villa appears to be close, and Rangers could soon have their latest Premier League recruit. Before we get into our next story, if you are enjoying today's video and you would like to see more and stay updated with the latest Rangers news, make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a video. Thank you, let's get back into the video. There could hardly be a clearer message for Rangers fans from Lewis Ferguson. The Scotland international has once again made his feelings about his boyhood club absolutely crystal clear. And this time, his words could have a major bearing on what happens. Ferguson has been heavily linked with a move to Rangers this summer, with reports suggesting the Ibrox club explored the possibility of bringing him back to Glasgow. But with Bologna reportedly demanding somewhere in the region of £17 million, that move was always going to be extremely difficult to pull off. However, despite the immediate stumbling block, Ferguson has now delivered a statement that will have Rangers supporters dreaming about what could happen further down the line. Speaking to Italian outlet Corriere dello Sport, Ferguson was asked directly about the possibility of eventually playing for Rangers, and his answer could not have been much more emphatic. Ferguson said, "It's my favourite team, and I've always said I want to play for Rangers. One day, though I don't know when yet, it will definitely happen if I get the chance." Think about that for a moment. This isn't simply a player refusing to rule out a move. Ferguson has openly admitted that Rangers are his favourite team, and has said that he will play for the club one day if the opportunity presents itself. For a player who grew up supporting Rangers, spent time at Ibrox as a youngster, and comes from a family with deep connections to the club, that makes this particularly significant. His father Derek Ferguson and uncle Barry Ferguson both enjoyed successful spells at Rangers, lifting major silverware in Glasgow. And Lewis clearly hasn't lost that connection. In fact, Rangers supporters could potentially have a reason to keep a very close eye on his situation at Bologna. Ferguson is contracted to the Italian club until 2028, but he has admitted that he hasn't thought about extending that deal. He said, "I haven't thought about a renewal. My focus right now is football. I don't want to think about contracts or anything else. Then, if there's something to discuss, we'll talk." Now that doesn't mean Ferguson is about to leave Bologna. It doesn't mean a Rangers transfer is suddenly imminent. But when you put those comments alongside his declaration that he will play for Rangers if he gets the chance, it certainly gives this story another layer. And there's another fascinating element here. Ferguson's father Derek recently questioned why Rangers even made an inquiry for his son when Bologna's asking price was understood to be between 15 million euros and 20 million euros. Speaking on the Open Goal podcast, he said, "Was that not a waste of time? A waste of time having the conversation and all that?" He continued, "Because they must have known the price, between 15 million euros and 20 million euros, Rangers can't go that far for a player, so why did they go down that route?" And that tells you just how difficult the deal would have been this summer. Rangers simply may not have been in a position to spend that kind of money on one player. But perhaps the most important part of Derek's comments came afterwards. He added, "Hopefully that will happen somewhere down the line." And that is exactly where this story becomes really interesting, because Lewis Ferguson himself has now said the same thing in his own way. He wants to play for Rangers. He believes it will happen one day. The question is simply when. And while Ferguson remains focused on his football in Italy, he also revealed just how comfortable he has become in Bologna. He described Glasgow as his first home, but called Bologna his second home, explaining that his family has settled there and that his second daughter was even born in the city. So this isn't a player desperate to get out of Italy tomorrow, but it is a player who has left the door firmly open to one particular destination, and that destination is Rangers. For now, the financial reality makes a move extremely difficult, but transfers aren't always about what is possible today. Contracts change, circumstances change, transfer fees change. Players reach different stages of their careers, and Ferguson has made one thing abundantly clear. If the opportunity comes, he wants to wear that Rangers shirt. So perhaps the biggest question isn't whether Lewis Ferguson wants to play for Rangers. We've now got the answer to that. The real question is whether Rangers can eventually make that opportunity happen. And given Ferguson's latest comments, this may be a transfer story that isn't going away anytime soon.